Alexandra Eala replaces Zheng when has to withdraw due to injury, but fans can now look forward to seeing Alex step in.
World number 46. Not a wild card. Not a favor. Not a sympathy entry. A direct main draw spot into one of the most stacked WTA 500 fields of the entire clay season. When Porsche Tennis Grand Prix officials confirmed that Alex Eala would replace the injured Zheng Qinwen in Stuttgart, most of the tennis world shrugged. A top 10 player goes down, a number 46 steps in. Happens all the time. Routine. Forgettable. Except nothing about Alex Eala is routine. And Stuttgart was about to find that out the hard way.
Now we came here because she's also...
Within hours of that announcement, something started happening that no tournament director had written into their contingency plan. Filipino fans across 3 continents were not mourning Zheng's withdrawal. They were mobilizing, refreshing ticket sites, coordinating travel, flooding group chats from Stuttgart to Singapore to San Francisco. Because they had seen this movie before. Indian Wells. They knew exactly what was coming. And the question is not whether Stuttgart was ready. The question is whether any tournament on this planet is ever truly ready for what happens when an entire nation decides to show up at once.
This has never happened to me.
Here is what the official announcement actually said. Tournament officials posted to social media with the standard corporate courtesy. Alexandra Eala replaces Zheng Qinwen in the main draw. Unfortunately, Zheng has to withdraw due to injury. But fans can now look forward to seeing Alexandra step in. Professional. Polite. Procedural. 9 words buried at the end of a press release. But those 9 words, fans can now look forward, lit a fire that Stuttgart's organizing committee was completely unprepared to contain. Because looking forward is precisely what tens of thousands of Filipino fans had already been doing since the second that announcement dropped. And their version of looking forward does not involve politely waiting. It involves buying every ticket in sight before anyone else even realizes what is happening. Zheng Qinwen withdraws injured and the 20-year-old Filipina steps directly into a field featuring Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, and Elena Rybakina. Let that sink in for a moment. For Grand Slam champions. Multiple former world number 1s. And right there in the draw alongside all of them, a 20-year-old from the Philippines ranked 46th in the world. By every traditional measure of tennis economics, her presence should have softened ticket demand. A lower-ranked replacement for a top 10 star is supposed to mean disappointed fans and quieter sessions. Supposed to. But the Eala army has spent the entire 2026 season making a mockery of supposed to. Days before Stuttgart, Eala had fallen to Yelena Ostapenko in the second round at Linz. She had led in the second set, held real chances to force a decider, and could not close it out. A stinging early clay exit that dropped momentum at exactly the wrong moment, just as the season's most critical surface stretch was beginning. She did not post excuses. Did not complain about the draw, the surface, the timing. Within 48 hours of that loss, she was on a plane to Stuttgart preparing for a main draw opportunity that most players ranked 46 never receive. And that response, that quiet, relentless forward motion, is exactly what her fans have understood about her from the very beginning. While the broader tennis world was still processing the Linz result, the Eala army was already asking one question. When does she play in Stuttgart? The answer came when the draw was released. Her first-round opponent, Leylah Fernandez. A lefty versus lefty battle, and not just any battle. Fernandez, of Filipino-Canadian descent, facing the player representing the Philippines itself. One carrying the homeland. One carrying the diaspora. Philippine sports media did not frame it as a routine first-round match. They framed it immediately as a cultural moment. 2 left-handers. 2 players with Filipino blood coursing through their stories. On one of the most prestigious clay stages in Europe before Roland Garros. You cannot script a more compelling opening act. And the moment that draw dropped, the commercial earthquake that Stuttgart's organizers had not seen coming began shaking the foundations of everything they thought they knew about ticket demand. Now here is where it gets interesting. The institutional tennis world operates on a simple, clean premise. Higher rankings equal higher revenue. Stars sell tickets. Names drive gates. It is a model that has worked for decades. And it is a model that Alex Eala has been quietly dismantling tournament by tournament, event by event, city by city. Indian Wells witnessed it first and witnessed it in a way nobody was prepared for. When Eala's matches were scheduled, resale prices for certain sessions exploded past $1,000. Not for a Serena Williams comeback. Not for a Grand Slam final. For a rising Filipino player fighting through the early rounds of a hardcourt Masters event. Fans who recognized what was unfolding early reported watching baseline ticket listings triple in price within hours of draw confirmations. The WTA's economic models had no framework for what was happening, because what was happening had never happened before. Linz confirmed the pattern weeks later. Reports from that tournament indicated that approximately 90% of tickets for Eala's matches were purchased by Filipino fans. Read that number again. 90%. Sessions that would normally see modest midweek attendance transformed into standing room experiences. The Eala army did not just show up to Linz. They took it over. They converted a European indoor hardcourt tournament into what felt like a home crowd for a player who does not even have a home tournament yet. And the moment Stuttgart announced her entry, the question every tournament director across Europe started asking was simple. Is our city next? The timeline for Stuttgart compressed everything into 72 hours of commercial chaos. Monday, Eala listed as Zheng's replacement. Wednesday, the draw released showing Fernandez in round 1. Friday, the tournament's opening weekend sessions. 72 hours for the Eala effect to do what it always does. And if Indian Wells and Linz taught the tennis world anything at all, it is that 72 hours is more than enough time. More than enough time for fans to mobilize across time zones, coordinate travel from across Germany and beyond, and flood the Porsche Arena the same way they flooded every venue before it. Do you think Stuttgart understood what those 72 hours actually meant? Or were they already behind the moment the announcement went live? Steve Flink, a tennis analyst with decades spent covering the women's tour, framed Eala's rising profile in terms that cut straight to the point. Emerging players with deep national support are changing how tournaments measure star power. Credentials no longer tell the whole story. Gate receipts do. Gate receipts. That is the language that matters now. Not ranking points. Not seeding numbers. Not head-to-head records. The money coming through the gates tells the real story of who the most commercially significant player in any given draw actually is. And in Stuttgart, in a field containing Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, and Rybakina, the commercially most significant story walking into the Porsche Arena might be the 20-year-old ranked 46th. Consider what the financial ecosystem around Eala looks like right now. Nike reporting interest in long-term sponsorship deals. BPI and Globe Telecom doubling down on endorsements. Locally, Juicy and Milo leveraging her ambassador status across Southeast Asian markets. The commercial infrastructure surrounding Alex Eala is behaving as though she is already a top 10 player. Because commercially she already is. Sponsors do not care about your ranking. They care about reach. They care about attention. They care about the kind of passionate, mobilized fan base that does not just watch but travels, buys, wears, and floods social media with content that no marketing budget can replicate. Eala's fan base does all of that and then some. And every tournament that has hosted her in 2026 has watched its own revenue assumptions get rewritten in real time. The Porsche Tennis Grand Prix is not a minor stop on the calendar. 47 years of history. Past champions include Martina Navratilova, Steffi Graf, and Maria Sharapova. The winner drives away in a Porsche 911 and collects prize money exceeding €160,000. This is one of the premier clay events standing between the spring hardcourt season and Roland Garros. It matters. The players in the draw know it matters. The sponsors know it matters. And now, because of one late entry announcement, every Filipino fan with a passport and a flight budget knows it matters too. The Porsche Arena is about to experience something it has never experienced in its 4.5 decades of hosting elite women's tennis. An army that did not come to watch a tournament. An army that came to claim a stage for one of their own. This is the part the WTA has been slow to reckon with honestly. Their ranking system is designed to measure individual achievement over time. It measures who wins, who loses, who accumulates points across the season. What it does not measure, what it was never designed to measure, is market power. And when market power diverges sharply from rankings, the tours and tournaments do not follow the rankings. They follow the money. Every time. Eala at 46 is generating commercial impact that players ranked inside the top 20 are not generating. That is not a criticism of those players. That is a structural reality the WTA is going to have to confront sooner rather than later. Stuttgart is simply the latest, most undeniable evidence that the confrontation has already begun. And the clay season has barely started. Stuttgart leads directly into Madrid, Rome, and Roland Garros. 3 events where ticket demand will face the exact same stress test if Eala advances deep enough to keep the draw interesting. Tournament directors at each of those stops are paying close attention to what happens in Stuttgart this week. Not casually interested, actively watching. Because if the Eala effect continues at full force through the European clay swing, the commercial implications extend far beyond ticket sales into broadcast rights, sponsor activation priorities, and how the WTA thinks about scheduling for players outside the top 30 when they know those players carry diasporas worth tens of millions of passionate, paying fans. The French Open draw is 6 weeks away. 6 weeks. That is how long Stuttgart, Madrid, and Rome have to figure out what the Eala army already knows about itself. You saw this coming, didn't you? Every time you watched her fight through 3-set battles against higher-ranked opponents, every time you saw the Filipino flags multiplying in the stands from one event to the next, every time the WTA tried to treat her as a mid-ranked entry and her fanbase responded by making that assumption look ridiculous, you understood what the broader tennis world was too slow to recognize. Rankings measure results. Movements measure something deeper. And what is building around Alex Eala is not just a fanbase. It is a movement with a passport, a credit card, and an unwavering willingness to show up anywhere on earth she is playing and make it feel like Manila. The loss to Ostapenko stung because she was close. She had the match in reach and could not close it. But here is what that loss did not do. It did not stop the WTA from putting her in Stuttgart. It did not stop the sponsors from calling. It did not stop the fans from buying tickets. It did not stop the narrative from accelerating. Because the Eala effect is not built on perfect results. It is built on something the tennis establishment has never quite figured out how to quantify. A 20-year-old who makes people feel like something historic is being built in real time, match by match, city by city, flag by flag. So do the Stuttgart organizers fully understand what is about to walk into the Porsche arena when Eala steps on court against Fernandez? Or will they join Indian Wells and Linz in the growing list of tournaments that completely underestimated what happens when an entire nation decides to show up at once? Because if you think Stuttgart is the peak of this story, you have not been paying attention. The clay season runs through Roland Garros. And every European tournament between here and Paris is about to learn the same lesson that the ones before them learned too late to prepare for it. The Eala effect does not ask for permission. It does not wait for a ranking to justify it. It simply arrives. And Stuttgart, ready or not, is next.